I never thought I would be telling my story on Reddit, but after the crazy events of the past few months, I figured it was time to share. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Sophia, not my real name, a 28-year-old woman living in the heart of Los Angeles. It all started when I decided to join a group of friends for a night out on the town. We were all dressed up and ready to have a good time. We hit up a few bars and ended up at this club that was supposed to be the place to be. As soon as we walked in, I knew something was off. The music was too loud, the people were too rowdy, and the drinks were way too expensive. As we were standing at the bar, trying to flag down the bartender, a guy walked up to us. He was tall, dark, and handsome, the type of guy who would turn heads wherever he went. He introduced himself as Tyler and offered to buy us all a round of drinks. At first, we were hesitant, but he seemed nice enough, so we decided to accept his offer. We spent the rest of the night dancing and drinking with Tyler. He was charming, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know us. As the night wore on, I started to feel a little uneasy. Tyler was getting touchy, feely, and making inappropriate comments. I tried to brush it off and laugh it off, but it was starting to make me uncomfortable. As the night was coming to an end, Tyler asked for my number. I didn't want to give it to him, but I felt pressured by my friends. They were all telling me how cute he was and how lucky I was to have caught his eye. Reluctantly, I gave him my number and said goodbye. The next day, I woke up to a barrage of text messages from Tyler. He was asking me out on a date, telling me how beautiful I was and saying all sorts of things that made me uncomfortable. I didn't respond, but he kept texting me every day, multiple times a day. I started to feel like I was being stalked. Eventually, I blocked his number, but that didn't stop him. He found me on social media and started messaging me there. He even showed up at my workplace, claiming that he just happened to be in the area and thought he would surprise me. I was mortified. How did he know where I worked? I tried to ignore him, but he was relentless. He would send me messages from fake accounts, pretending to be someone else. He would call me from different numbers, pretending to be someone else. He even showed up at my apartment building, claiming that he was visiting a friend who lived there. I was scared, but I didn't know what to do. I confided in my friend Rachel, and she suggested that I get a restraining order. I didn't want to go that far, but she convinced me that it was for my own safety. So I went to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. I thought that would be the end of it, but Tyler wasn't going down without a fight. He showed up at the hearing, claiming that he had done nothing wrong and that he just wanted to be friends. The judge saw through his lies and granted me the restraining order. But that didn't stop Tyler. He started showing up at places he knew I would be. The gym, the grocery store, even the coffee shop I frequented. I was starting to feel like I was being watched all the time. I confided in Rachel again, and she suggested that we go to the police. At first, I was hesitant, but I knew that something had to be done. So we went to the police station and explained everything that had been happening. They took it seriously and started an investigation. They were able to trace the fake accounts and phone numbers back to Tyler, and they finally arrested him for stalking. It was a relief to know that he was behind bars, but it didn't take away the fear that he had instilled in me. I started seeing a therapist to help me deal with the trauma of the situation. It was a long road, but eventually I started to feel like myself again. One day, about a year after everything had happened, I was walking down the street when I saw Tyler. My heart started racing, and I felt like I was going to be sick. But then I remembered that he was in jail. I looked closer and realized that it wasn't Tyler. It was just someone who looked like him. It was a wake-up call for me. I had been living in fear for so long that I had forgotten what it was like to feel safe. It was time for me to take back control of my life and start living it on my terms. Looking back, I realized that I had been so naive to trust Tyler in the first place. But I also know that it wasn't my fault. No one deserves to be stalked or harassed, and I'm grateful that I had people in my life who supported me and helped me get through it. So, to anyone out there who might be going through something similar, please don't hesitate to reach out for help. You don't have to go through it alone, and there are people who will believe you and support you. And to Tyler, wherever he is now, I hope he learned his lesson and never does something like that again. Let me start by saying my name is Samantha. I'm a 32-year-old female, and I live in a small town. I have a great group of friends, and we love getting together on the weekends for brunch or happy hour. We've been doing this for years, and we've always had a good time, until last weekend. It all started when we decided to try out a new brunch spot that had just opened up downtown. I was excited to try it out. I love trying new restaurants and trying new foods. My friend Sophia, who is always up for trying new things, suggested it. She had heard great things about the place from some of her coworkers. So we made reservations for Saturday morning and got there right on time. As soon as we walked in, I knew something was off. The hostess had a weird vibe, like she didn't want us there. But I brushed it off and followed her to our table. We were just about to order our food when a woman came over to our table. She was tall, blonde, and looked like she was in her early 40s. She introduced herself as the owner of the restaurant and started chatting with us. I thought it was nice that she was making an effort to get to know her customers, but then things took a turn. She started asking us really personal questions, like if we were married, if we had kids, and how much money we made. I was taken aback, but I didn't want to be rude, so I answered her questions politely. Then she started making some really inappropriate comments. She told me that I was too thin and needed to eat more, and then told Sarah that she should consider getting a boob job. I was shocked. I couldn't believe she would say something like that to us. I looked at my friends and could tell they were just as uncomfortable as I was. But then the owner started to get angry when we didn't laugh at her jokes or respond to her advances. She called us uptight bitches and said that we needed to lighten up. That was the last straw for me. I stood up from the table and told her that we were leaving. She tried to argue with me and said that we couldn't leave without paying our bill, but I wasn't having it. I told her that I would be happy to pay for our drinks, but we weren't going to stay there and be insulted. We left the restaurant and went to a different place for brunch. But before we reported the restaurant to the local public health authorities, as there were lots of violations in the restaurant, like stains on the tables, we talked about what had happened and how uncomfortable we all felt. I couldn't believe that someone would act that way, especially someone who owned a business. After brunch, we decided to go shopping at the mall. We were walking through the parking lot when we saw the owner of the restaurant. She was standing by her car and looked like she was waiting for someone. As we got closer, we realized that she was waiting for us. She started yelling at us and called us all sorts of names. She accused us of not paying our bill and said that we had ruined her business. I tried to reason with her and explain that we had left because of her behavior, but she wasn't having it. Finally, we just got in our cars and drove away. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I had never been treated like that before. It was a surreal experience, and I still can't believe it happened. I haven't been back to that restaurant since, and I don't plan on going back. It's a shame because the food was actually pretty good, but I can't support a business that treats its customers that way. I've told all of my friends about what happened, and they've all agreed to never go there either. As for the owner, I'm not sure what her problem was. Maybe she was having a bad day or going through a tough time, but that's no excuse to treat people like that. I hope she realizes that her behavior was unacceptable and makes an effort to change. In the meantime, my friends and I have found a new brunch spot that we love. It's owned by a really nice couple who always make us feel welcome. And the best part, they don't ask us personal questions or insult our appearances. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes. Looking back on that day, I realized that it was a lesson learned. I learned that it's important to speak up when someone is treating you poorly, even if it's uncomfortable. And I learned that it's okay to walk away from a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable or disrespected. I've always considered myself to be a pretty easygoing person, but that experience tested me. I'm proud of myself and my friends for standing up for ourselves and not tolerating that kind of behavior. We deserved better, and we found it elsewhere. In conclusion, if you're ever in my town and looking for a good brunch spot, I'd be happy to recommend a few places. Just don't ask me about that one restaurant owned by the blonde woman. I woke up feeling like today was going to be different. Little did I know, it was going to be a day I would never forget. I sat up and stretched, my muscles creaking from the strain of yesterday's workout. I went to the kitchen and made myself a cup of coffee, relishing the aroma that filled the air. As I was sipping my coffee, I noticed that I had received a message from my friend Jane. "Hey girl, I'm having a get-together at my place tonight. You should totally come." I smiled as I read the message. It had been a while since I last saw Jane. She was always the life of the party, and I couldn't wait to catch up with her. I replied, "Sounds great. What time should I come over?" 7 p.m. Don't be late." I chuckled as I finished my coffee, feeling excited for the night ahead. Later that evening, I arrived at Jane's house. The music was blasting and people were already dancing. As soon as I walked in, Jane spotted me and waved me over. "Hey girl, you made it," she exclaimed, giving me a hug. We chatted for a bit, catching up on each other's lives, and I couldn't help but notice that Jane had changed. She used to be the wild child, always up for anything, but now she seemed more reserved. I wondered what had happened to her. As we were talking, a guy approached us. He had piercing blue eyes and was dressed in a suit that was clearly too expensive for a party like this. "Hey, ladies, I couldn't help but notice two beautiful women standing here all by themselves." I rolled my eyes, already sensing that he was trouble. "Thanks, but we're good," trying to dismiss him. "Oh, come on, don't be like that," he said, placing his hand on Jane's arm. "I'm sure we can find something to do." Jane looked uncomfortable, but didn't say anything. "Actually, we were just about to dance," I interjected, trying to get rid of him. He gave me a smirk. "I'll join you then." I groaned inwardly, knowing that this guy was going to be a pain. We started dancing, but he was a terrible dancer and kept stepping on my toes. "Wow, you're really good at this," I said sarcastically. He laughed, thinking I was serious. "Thanks, I try my best." I rolled my eyes again, wondering how I was going to get rid of him. Just then, Jane's phone rang. She excused herself and went outside to take the call. As soon as she left, the guy leaned in closer to me. "You know, you're even more beautiful up close," he said, his breath smelling like alcohol. I felt a chill run down my spine, and I knew I had to get out of there. "Excuse me," I said, stepping away from him. "I need to go find my friend." He grabbed my arm, his grip tightening. "Don't be like that, baby," he slurred. "I just want to have some fun." I tried to pull away, but his grip was too strong. "Let go of me," I said firmly. "Come on, don't be such a prude," he said, leaning in for a kiss. Just then, Jane burst back into the room. "What the hell is going on here?" she shouted, her eyes blazing. The guy let go of me, looking startled. "I was just having some fun with your friend here," he said, trying to sound innocent. Jane's face turned red with anger. "Get out of my house," she said through gritted teeth. The guy smirked, not taking her seriously. "I don't think so," he said, grabbing a beer from the nearby table. "I'm just getting started." Jane's eyes widened in disbelief as she watched the guy take a swig from the bottle. "Get out, or I'm calling the police," she said, her voice shaking with rage. The guy shrugged, still not taking her seriously. "Fine, I'll leave," he said, turning around to leave. As he walked away, he tripped over a stray beer bottle and fell to the ground. Everyone in the room burst out laughing, and I couldn't help but feel relieved that he was finally gone. "Thanks for getting rid of him," I said to Jane, giving her a hug. She sighed, looking shaken. "I'm so sorry about that," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know what came over me." I could tell that something was bothering her, and I wanted to know what it was. "Are you okay?" I asked, putting a hand on her shoulder. She looked at me, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm not okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sick of guys like that thinking they can just walk all over me." I felt a pang of sadness for my friend, knowing that she had been through a lot. "Tell me what happened," I said, sitting down next to her. She took a deep breath, composing herself. "It's just, I've had some bad experiences with men in the past. I thought I had moved on from all that, but seeing that guy just brought it all back." I listened attentively as she told me about her past relationships, about how she had been manipulated and abused by men who claimed to love her. It was heartbreaking to hear, and I wished there was something I could do to help her. As the night went on, we talked more and more. getting deeper into our respective stories. I told her about my own struggles with depression and anxiety, about how I had to fight every day just to get out of bed in the morning. She listened intently, nodding her head in understanding. "I had no idea," she said, giving me a hug. "You're so strong, I don't know how you do it." I smiled, feeling grateful for her words of encouragement. "I have good friends like you to help me through it," I said. As the night wore on, we both started to feel tired and we decided to call it a night. We hugged each other goodbye, promising to stay in touch and to hang out more often. As I drove home, I couldn't help but think about the events of the night. It was a strange, surreal experience, but it had also been eye-opening. I had learned more about my friend than I ever thought possible, and I felt closer to her than ever before. Despite the chaos and drama of the night, I felt grateful for the experience. It had shown me that even in the darkest of times, there is always someone there to help you through it. And for that, I was thankful.